If you've traded even for a day, you've sold to close a position. It's very intuitive to understand. You paid some money for something, it's either some shares or a contract of some kind, anything really, and then you sold it back to somebody else, you got some cash in return, but you no longer have that contract or those shares or whatever, so your position is closed. And that's very intuitive, easy to understand. What's not so easy to understand is buying to close. For example, with a covered call position, you might sell to open a call and then buy it back at some point to close your position. But if you buy it back, how does that close your position? It kind of short circuits your brain when you think about it. It's not as intuitive. So let's make sure you thoroughly understand how it works when you are buying to close an options position. When you sell to close, it looks a little something like this. You have some money. Here's money. Here's some donut.
You f***ing donut.
Your counterparty who has an options contract that you want. So an exchange takes place. So you pay some money, you get this contract, and then later some time goes by and you decide you want to close your position to either lock in some profits or cut some losses. So you sell your contract back to your counterparty. Now it's probably not going to be the same person, but it doesn't really matter. You sell the contract, they pay you whatever that contract's worth. You either make a profit or a loss. In this case, it's very intuitive that your position is closed, it's flat, because you don't own that contract anymore. However, when you buy to close, it's a little bit different because your counterparty starts with the money. Buying to close starts with selling to open. That means you create an entirely new contract and you sell it to somebody. Literally, you go to your brokerage's platform and you smash that sell button on an option that you don't already own. That creates a new contract and sells it to some sucker. Now, most of the time, it's part of a larger strategy, like covered calls or cash secured puts or spreads or iron condors or diagonals, whatever. It's not usually just selling an option with no other context to the position. Because when you're selling an option as just an individual option, that's called writing a naked call or writing a naked put. And that entails a lot of risk. To cover that risk, your brokerage is going to take a large sum of cash and set it aside as collateral to cover any potential losses. So the vast majority of the time, selling to open is part of a larger strategy. So don't go selling an individual option if you don't know what you're doing, I guess is what I'm saying. So let's say you do this. As a larger strategy, you go and you smash that sell button on an option that you do not already own. So that creates an entirely new contract, whoop, and you sell it to somebody and they pay you some money for it. And some time goes by, let's say it's a covered call position, and you decide, you know, this call is out of the money. It's going to expire worthless and you're going to keep all the premium, but it's only worth $1 and you have to wait until expiration, which might be a week from now, to collect that premium. And you don't want to wait that long. It's not worth it for $1. So instead, you want to buy to close this call, paying that $1 to close it, so that you can roll it out to a further expiration and maybe a higher strike for a higher premium. So that's called rolling your call. Regardless, you're just buying to close. So you pay some money, hopefully less than what you initially paid, so that's a profit, and you get that contract back. How is this closing your position though? Because you have this contract. Well, if you think about it theoretically, that contract is now between you and yourself. And if that's the case, then you're experiencing both sides of that options position. Basically, the buyer and the seller's experience is exactly what you're experiencing. And because those two sides are equal but opposite, so when the buyer's making money, the seller's losing money, and when the seller's making money, the buyer's losing money. So they're equal but opposite. So if you're both those parties, they negate each other. So it doesn't really make sense to have a call option position in your portfolio where you are both sides of that contract. You're experiencing both sides of that contract because they are equal but opposite. You're going to be experiencing nothing, no profit or loss. So instead of you holding on to this call option, it automatically gets destroyed. Profit loss wise, there's no difference between you owning a contract between you and yourself and having that contract destroyed, because both of those are going to result in not having any effect on your profit and loss. So this contract gets destroyed, it disappears, and you have bought to close your position. You're no longer in any sort of trade. So when you buy to close a call or put, think about it. What's happening is you get that contract back, but it immediately evaporates. It's like you're buying it and it just goes straight into the shredder. It's gone. Doesn't exist. So while it's not as intuitive, once you understand that it just disappears once you buy it back, it gives a lot more context to what you're doing. Hope this helps clarify buying to close, especially for those guys trading covered calls now. Super fun. Love you guys. Bye-bye.